Our sport, this sport, my sport, has been around longer than any other sport. Why is there so little known about it? Don't get me started.
No, I want to get you started. We have to get you started. That's why we're here.
The fans keep the sport alive. When you have passion, my answer is he'll stay around as long as that passion stays. It's not that complicated. It's not that, it's so simple. And he's getting it. Turkey's getting it. It's not, give the people the fights that they want. Matter of fact, I'll make it even more simple. Give them the fights you want.
We are firemen. It tells us that we're ready. We're at home. We're where we're supposed to be. Give me 6 minutes. Look at me. Look me in the eye. I'm so proud of you. Give me 6 minutes of your best.
And Michael Moore against the embrace from Teddy Atlas.
We have to talk about Ringbackers in here.
I agree.
Now, this is 100 years in the business.
Oh, we started? Did we start?
Yeah.
Oh, we're in.
Yeah, we're in.
All right.
So, 1922 it started. Nat Fletcher.
Yeah. Listen, the thing that upsets me about my sport, I think I have the right to say my sport. I'm not being a egotistical idiot. Try not to be. That should be left at the door, that kind of silliness. But when you put 50 years in a business, you say, yeah, it's your business. It's your sport. And, it's our sport. I know that. I understand. But what upsets me is we know the history, and the young kids, they know the history. It's available for baseball, for basketball, for football, American football, but for all those sports, it's available. And people, even tennis, people know it. Golf, they know it. But here's the thing. Our sport, this sport, my sport, has been around longer than any other sport. Maybe the marathon might have been around a minute longer. I don't know. It's a close contest. But when you're talking about a sport where archaeologists could go into caves over 2,000 years ago and find murals painted on the caves of men fighting. Sport's been around a minute.
Yeah, that's a minute.
That's a minute.
Yeah.
It's a long one. And when you put that into thought and into proper context, and you start thinking in those kind of ways and dimensions, then why the heck a sport this great that's been around this long, why is there so little known about it? Why is the history of this sport not available to more people? Why do kids who can tell you the baseball players, and that's great, don't get me wrong, the basketball players, the football players, they can't tell you about a guy named Sam Langford, who's around in the 1920s, who's around in the early turn of the century in the 1900s, who had almost 300 fights, fought everybody, and he fought catch weight from lightweight to heavyweight and beat everyone.
100%. There's another guy, Harry Greb.
Harry Greb, the great middleweight, the Pittsburgh windmill. Don't get me started.
No, I want to get you started. We have to get you started. That's why we're here.
Really, it's criminal.
You have Floyd Mayweather win 50, but Harry Greb goes 45-0 in 1 year.
What?
In 1 year. That should be common knowledge.
Listen, want to go down that road? Go to Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, Sugar Ray Robinson, how many fights and wins he had consecutive until he lost
to Jake LaMotta. And then avenged it the same way.
Of course, because he revenged those losses. That was part of his greatness. The worst thing you could do with Sugar Ray Robinson was lose to him was to beat him because the next time you had a problem. You could be guaranteed that the sun is coming. There's not a lot of guarantees in life. Usually the sun is coming up. I mean, hopefully that continues. So. No, but hopefully it continues because God forbid one day it may, and we'll be way, 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 way beyond us and our families all people that we care about. And
You'll still be here.
We love. Yeah, sure. we love so much. But you could depend on that, and you could depend on Sugar Ray Robinson, if you were good enough, I'm not going to say fortunate enough, if you were good enough to get a win from that man, boy, that was the good news. The bad news was when you fought him again, you had a problem.
Well, that's where the rubber meets the road, and this is where you get excited because I think that left the sport. I think the sport has gotten worse and not better. They say that all the time, that the sport has evolved. I don't think it has, and that's what's missing because how can you get better when you haven't taken the ass whooping and avenged it?
You know what hasn't gotten better? The administrators of the sport. And also the carriers of history. You. Thank God for you. Thank God for Ring Magazine. Thank God. Again, I want to be careful with that because it's too easy to be like but then again, who gives a damn what people think? All that matters is what you know, that you believe, why you're saying it, and what it means to you. But they say, you're going to give credit to Turkey Al-Sheikh because, no, I'm going to give him credit for three things. One, that he's given us fights over the last year that has rejuvenated the sport. Fights that been good for the sport and good for the fans. And if it's good for the fans, it's good for the sport. You can't forget about the fans. They're the lifeblood of the sport. Yeah, the fighters, we get it. They come first. But the fans keep the sport alive. The fans make the sport go up or go down, just like a stock, in the stock market. If people are buying, it's going up. If people ain't buying, it's going down. You don't want to have that stock. He has done that. And the other thing that he gets credit for me, is that he has a passion for the sport and a care for the fighters that are part of the sport. He has that. You can see it's not all cold numbers. I know the money and all that. You can't get around that. But it's not. He actually. People were wondering how long is he going to stay with this when 3 months went by. Oh, you're making some good fights here. Wow. 5 months. Oh, you made some more good fights. 8 months. Oh, how much longer? Now we're over a year. When you have passion, my answer is he'll stay around as long as that passion stays. That means forever.
If you can make that type of splash and you can kind of change the game forever, kind of change the culture. And what we were talking about before was in losses, right? You think about, you said what happened to the sport, and we're wondering what happened to the sport. And a lot of those things was robbed from us, the losses. If I think about the very best fights, you have Roberto Duran and Leonard. Duran beat Leonard. Leonard lost. You have Frazier and Ali. The hero lost. You have Holyfield and Bowe. The hero lost. A lot of times it's in those fights. Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson. Tyson lost. Those are the fights that you remember.
So important. You know why you remember them?
Why?
The same reason why people will not, they will, but they will not go to a movie where they already know the ending.
100%.
It's not that complicated. No, it's not that. It's so simple. And he's getting it. Turkey's getting it. It's not, give the people the fights that they want. Matter of fact, I'll make it even more simple. Give them the fights you want.
Facts. Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's not that difficult when you make it simple.
Well, that's why I
what's that old say? Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes we forget what we shouldn't forget, that things are basic.
Well, I think they redefined matchmaking. The word matchmaking. Good matchmaking now is on the side of the promoter for his fighter. Good matchmaking should be, like you said, the movie that you want to watch, that you have anxiety.
100%.
I'm not going to go anywhere and pay money for something where I don't have a bit of angst. I have to have anxiety.
You asked me before, you said, Teddy, where did the sport's not the same. Why is it not the same? It's not. And again, I would argue with you. I would differ with you. I would just express it a different way, where the sport, there's nothing wrong with the sport. It's nothing wrong. Never was. Never. But two men getting in the ring, willing to go in that ring and leave that ring with less of themselves. Wow. Willing to go in that ring and find out things about themselves that they didn't themselves know until they got in there. Willing to go in that ring and actually act as guides, explorers to us, to show us where man can go when he has a reason to go there. To go into that ring and, like your house, to me, your life, your body, your mind is a house. How many doors have you opened? And more important, how many doors have you not opened in your house?
Right.
To go in your house and say, I never opened that door. Why? Well, it was dark in there. Yeah, but there might be something in there that you need to find. Yeah, but it's dark. I know it's dark. Make it light. Open the door and find out what's in there. That's what boxing does. Yeah. And it gives us all a chance to be part of that journey, to learn, to be taught. Great fighters do that. That's the funny thing. People go, they're not educated. No, they're the smartest people in the world.
Yeah, they teach us a lot.
They teach us that valuable lesson of life. Go further.
Or living. There's a difference between living and being alive.
There's a difference between what you're saying, and I'll put it this way, between living and existing.
Facts. I don't want to just
I
exist.
like you.
I like you too, man.
And going back to what's wrong with the sport, nothing wrong with the sport, nothing wrong with what I just said. That's always there. The purity of that is always there. What's wrong is the administrators of the sport. And the other thing I give Turkey Ellis shit credit for before when I was saying about making the fights, that he's bringing back this magazine. Because again, it's one thing to make history, but it's another thing to have something to chronicle that history, to show that history, to put that history down in paper, in print, where others can see it, where years from now they can see it. It's important. That is, so what he's doing, yeah, it's important he's making these fights, but taking over this magazine is so important that we will give the sport what it deserves, a chance to show its history, a chance to let people continue to learn, that will understand what these fighters did, what they were, where they came from. You know why I love Sam Langford?
Why you love Sam Langford, man?
Because he fought from lightweight to heavyweight. Okay.
No, that's pretty good.
That's not bad. All right, that's one. And God almighty, just think about that. And look, the heavyweights were smaller for the most part back in those days, but still, he fought Jack Johnson, non-title fight. But this was a man who fought during a weak point in our country. And our country, my country, the United States, has gotten better. They have gotten better, they've gotten better. But back in those days, we had a terrible situation where a black person was not allowed to do what any person should be. I'm not even going to say the color of white or purple or blue. Any person should be allowed to do what their heart takes them, what their desires take them to, what their work will allow them to do. And we were in a terrible time. And there's been places that are still there around the world. We corrected it. We corrected it and deserve credit and understanding. Not credit so much, understanding that we did correct because it was something that never should have been. But it was. And what is fighting? If you look up Webster's dictionary, you don't, for me, you ask Teddy Atlas, what is the definition of fighting, of a fighter? I don't need Webster's. I think Webster's is pretty cool. It's all right.
No, you don't need Webster's.
But I don't need Webster's. I don't need Webster's.
Yeah.
I know what it is. It's somebody who has the ability, the desire, the wherewithal, the intestinal fortitude to overcome. That's what it is. And Sam Langford wrote the definition of that. Again, I don't want to throw away Webster's, but put it off on the side. Just show them. Show these young people. They don't need Webster's. I'm not saying it's not a place. And I'm not saying, Teddy, you want people to be illiterate. No, you're illiterate for even suggesting that. No, I don't want that. But I'm just saying, show them a picture. Show them a story about Sam Langford. And you know what? They will understand the definition of fighting. Not fighting just in the ring, but in life. Because life is a fight. It's a metaphor for life. It's a metaphor. Boxing is a metaphor for life. To me, it is. It's just a matter of what are you fighting for.
Let me ask you a question then. When people say who's the greatest fighter ever, do you think that the environment and the culture and the time itself kind of help defines who's the great fighter, not just the fighter or their skill set, everything that they're going up against?
I'm going to tell you one thing that I take a little bit of pride in this. And people, and after I said this, probably everyone will be using it. And I don't mean to sound like an idiot and one of those morons that, I'm the one who said that.
You haven't sounded like an idiot yet.
But I have a saying. My saying is a fight ain't a fight until there's something to overcome. Up until then, it's just an exhibition. Up to then, it's just an exhibition. How fast you are, how pretty you are, you know. You'll
win that. You'll win.
No. You are. But how fast you are, how skillful you are, all important things. Don't get me wrong. But it's an exhibition of that. Until there's something to overcome, it ain't a fight. And so your question is pertinent. Your question is on the button. By the way, they picked the right guy to do this. No, really. They did. But it's so on the money. Because the environment, where you come, what you had to overcome. Damn right.
Yeah.
And that's why I go back. People say, Teddy, you go back too far. Well, I mean, I'd go back further, if I had the availed information to go back to those guys on the cave there. I don't know who they were, so I won't go that far because I don't have the availed information.
That's why you have Ring, though.
Yeah. But we go back pretty damn far with Ring. But I do go back to those guys because there was more to overcome. Jack Johnson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. People say greatest heavyweights of all time. Johnson's in that. Come on, Teddy.
No. They
go Teddy.
But listen, but
back in those days, I said the guy was a pioneer. I said the guy was ahead of his time, ahead of the curve, putting punches together, defense, controlling range, being set to punch. I said, I know gentleman Jim Corbett controlled range. He moved. He was a pioneer too. But he wasn't always set to make you go through, I used to say on ESPN all the time, to make you go through a bad neighborhood and then mug you. He was ready to do it. So
he can clinch good too. Jack Johnson clinched.
So he was, and look, he had to deal with things, and we know about the possibility, or maybe it's beyond the possibility, whatever, of a fix, when all that stuff, and blotting the sun like I'm blotting that light, right?
And not recording his whims.
But look, the man was great, and part of his greatness was, to your point, of the time, the era, and what he had to overcome to show that greatness, to achieve that greatness, to have the right to be called great. So you ask me, I'll tell you another one. You want Teddy Atlas's favorites?
Yeah, can I get like 5 or 6 of them?
Henry Armstrong.
Yes.
Henry Armstrong.
I'm about to leave.
Henry Armstrong. Well, first of all, how can you go? But the best fighting nickname of all time.
Homicide
Hank. Now, back in those days, guys were real. I mean, they were tough, and so they had pride. They had tough. Today we have too many options. We have guys that sometimes, not in boxing only, but in general in society, where it's become almost too easy, like too many options. I don't think too many options is necessarily healthy. You know what I mean? Not necessarily healthy. Yeah, you know what I mean? But those days they didn't. So they were mandated to be tougher. To find a way, not to have that many options, not to have that many choices.
Yeah, well,
this is your choice.
Now you're talking about one belt.
So one belt. So now you those guys, all they would say is they say, all right, listen, all right, what's the date? All right, how much? Okay, good. Be there. Boom. It was over, right? And nowadays, what's his height? What's his reach?
Yeah,
okay. Well, listen, what's his walking around weight? Listen, what?
What's his habits? Has he been drinking?
What day of the week has he been bad days for him? Does he have any allergies? But then you get to Homicide Hank. Hello, listen, no problem. Yeah, okay, there, date, okay, yeah, all right. Who? Yeah, Homicide Hank. Click. I mean, not.
Man, that's how fight needs to be now, man. That's where fight needs to go now.
But no. I mean, when you heard Homicide Hank, you knew what you in for.
A long, uncomfortable night. He's going to be in your face.
No, in your chest.
Like Joe.
His head in your chest.
All night.
Backing you up.
Oh, my God. Wait. Do you think Joe Frazier took his style a little bit from Homicide Hate?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Frazier is a good example of that, Smoking Joe.
Right.
You know, he definitely is. There's other guys that you could put into that way of fighting, that mode, of that beast mode, if you will, of fighting. The thing about Henry, I mean, you look at, again, the book. You got to have the book. You got to look at the history. You look and you see the guy fought several times, 30 and more times in a year.
Yeah. That's
a career today. Two careers. I hate to say it.
But at that pace, too?
No, not just that pace. Here's the thing. Good fighters, top fighters.
Right, he's fighting best multiple times.
You can fight 100 times a year today with some of these guys that they put in. And that's back. I'm gonna go back now. That's back to what you brought up about the sport. Has the sport regressed? Has the sport's not as good? No, sport's fine. The administrators of the sport suck.
Yeah.
They've screwed up. And I'll go through it real quick. A litany of a laundry list. I wish it wasn't that long, but it was pretty long. But bad judging, bad refereeing, bad judging. You give enough bad decisions. Guess what? People ain't dumb. They're gonna say, "I don't want to see this sport no more."
They're not going to trust it. The trust is gone.
They're going to start to go to the gate.
I like what you were talking about with matchups. I was looking a couple weeks ago, and I was looking at Gene Tunney, right? One of the greatest. And I see that this guy fought Jack Dempsey multiple times, fought Harry Greb beat him multiple times.
His first
Walker,
loss was,
they all like.
His first loss is to Greb.
That's
you
right.
know why?
Why? Because he was damn good.
Yeah. He roughed him up. Now listen, Tunney was as tough as they come, but in a quiet way. Tunney was the first guy back in the day that they thought something was wrong. Like, this guy's a fighter. He's reading books. He's reading novels in camp. What? What do you mean? He's reading novels in training camp. This guy, and he was an ex-Marine. So you didn't have to question how tough he was and how mentally together and formed and fire tested he was. No, he was all those, but he boxed. So sometimes people get the wrong impression. They judge books by the cover. Not good. Not a good thing to do that. And they say, "Oh, he's a pretty boy. He's a guy who boxes. A guy who he reads books." And so what happens? He goes and he fights Harry Greb, right?
The fighter man's fighter.
Oh.
He didn't have one eye. He was blind in one eye.
Well, he fought 100 fights blind in one eye.
There you go. So he's the toughest guy.
I'm not sure someone would do that today. I'm not saying it's a good practice, but I'm not sure that anybody would do that. The mentality, the toughness, or the grit, whatever you want to call it, being a fighter. But here he is. We can hear you whispering, by the way. Yeah. Here it is that he fights Greb, and Greb is the Pittsburgh windmill for a reason. He's a windmill. So what's he do? He gets on top of Dempsey, on top of Tunney, and he's throwing. And, every once in a while, he missed this, but this might land. Maybe, whatever.
Yeah.
He roughed him up, all right? He said, "Welcome to my world. We ain't playing your game. We ain't out of here doing this today. No, not today. Today, you're going to have to show another dimension. Well, you're out of luck,
pal. You have to fight today.
Today it's going to be a little different. I'm going to get inside on you. I'm going to get in the trenches, in your kitchen. I'm going to cook up a storm."
Yeah.
And he's all busted up. And to his credit, he comes back and beats Greb 3 more times after that. Beats him 3 times. And you know what he says? You know what he says afterward?
What did he say?
When they did his autobiography and, they started doing the things that you do with a great person, a great fighter, and wanting to know about their mindset and what made them great and where they were and how they got there, he said, "I learned more from that Greb fight. And there's one thing I took away." What did you take away, Gene? "I will never be out-toughed again."
That's it. And that's what you're talking about when it comes to living and existing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He lived there and he learned there.
And again, just to go back a tiny bit with There's nothing wrong with the sport. Let it be what it's supposed to be, what it always was. Get rid of the bad judges. Have a system where you judge the judges. That sounds like a novel idea. That's not a bad idea. The magazine can help that. They can list the bad judges.
Yeah.
They can start to put a light, shine a light. They don't, guess what? People that are bad at something, they don't like lights shined on them. They don't.
Yes, especially those judging others.
You shine a light where there's...
judge them back.
You shine a light where there's rats. They don't stay. They don't stay. Same thing with the refs. Same thing where you have organizations, the alphabet organizations that are ranking guys not based on merit. It's got to be based, gee, that sounds like a novel idea. Wow, really? It's got to be based on merit? Yeah, I think so. I think that might, not by connections. Those are the things that have diluted my sport, our sport. Somebody's waiting to get in there.
Yeah, I see fingers moving.
I see. No, you know what I follow? I've been in boxing. I follow your eyes.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I saw your eyes.
Well, we could talk about this all day. And you're the perfect guy to talk about boxing history and
They got the right guy here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
They really did.
Thank you so much.
And listen, thank you for what you're doing, what's being done with bring this great magazine back where we can have the history shown to people that this sport deserves. This sport deserves the fighters that have truly given their sweat and blood in this sport, truly done. It's not just a cliche. Truly have done that. They deserve to be known, who they are, how they got there, what they did, what they overcome. They actually deserve that. And there's only one way to do it. You have to preserve history. You have to make history available. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, man. That was great.